to take to remediate what's happening. Next one, please. So, some of the essential knowledge, again, which we've heard of, you need to make friends fast. All right. In the aftermath of an event, when it occurs, you hear the phrase, "It's too late to share business cards when you're in the foxhole," because you need to have already had some of those relationships. Certainly, as one of the organization that I was a part of that responds nationwide to an event, I didn't know everybody, every place, but being able to establish those relationships right away was essential to getting the information that we needed. The key friends as part of the infrastructure network, if you're not familiar with some of these positions, these are the folks that really have the information that's necessary. Number one up there is Protective Security Advisor. This, if you're not familiar, this is a Department of Homeland Security representative positioned in almost every state, or they might be in every state by now and then some, where they help represent the federal critical infrastructure and key resources. They have the database, and they help forge those relationships and information sharing so that the federal government is aware of what's happening. Kind of the boss of the PSA is the infrastructure liaison who coordinates at a higher level and is responsible for different regions within the country. It's also important to know the state coordinating officer who's going to represent the state and the important information that they have and their priorities. Because really, if we're responding to an event, while we may have a Department of Defense asset there, whether it's a hospital, maybe not a DoD hospital, not necessarily located on an installation, maybe it's where we keep our anthrax vaccinations, or maybe it is just a military installation. Maybe it's a rail line where we're a power projection platform. We need to work closely with the state and what their priorities are to finish and to understand the response efforts. And then there's a couple others. The SITMA teams, if you haven't heard of that, is a Critical Infrastructure Protection Mission Assessment, Mission Assurance Assessment teams. These are National Guard teams. I believe there's only 2 now. There used to be 3. They go out and they do critical infrastructure assessments for the private sector. The purpose is they do it with DHS to do the assessment, so they understand where their vulnerabilities are, because a lot of these organizations, and when I say the private sector, this is on behalf of the Defense Contract Management Agency, as they're through the contracts. They can't require them to do this, but it's a good way to kind of have the information and to work closely with them as they're doing the assessments around the country. And then InfraGuard is another organization which, if you're not familiar with, is an FBI-sponsored critical infrastructure information sharing. They're done regional, or just not regionally, by some major metropolitan areas. Again, an information sharing collaboration network that's critical. I found that me being a DoD person as a part of these the meetings and even I participated in some of their exercises in a very low-key way, but it was just helpful to have that information, and that's how you make friends fast before the incident occurs.
I'll give a little plug. There's 73 groups around the country that belong to InfraGuard. We're all private companies. Every member is vetted by the FBI, a basic vet. I wouldn't trust anything. anything. Yeah, but it's a basic vet. Yeah.
Right now, there's 41,000 members of us in InfraGuard. Yeah.
Good. So we got some supporters out there.
Right.
Members.
We got members. Yeah.
We got members.
Good deal. As beyond making the friends, some of the databases that are available to have for critical infrastructure response. ACAMS, if you're not familiar with that, is anybody familiar with ACAMS? Have you heard of this?
Yes.
All right. This is an initiative launched by DHS, the Automated Critical Asset Management System. It was really started out in Los Angeles, but it's where the private sector, not necessarily just private sector, but private and or public sector organizations or institutions, it can be, Brown Elementary School, or it can be Northrop Grumman. They provide their information into a database that is shared and is protected under the Protected Critical Infrastructure Information. But it allows for first responders to have the information they need, so they know, hey, there's a vulnerability over here, or here's the phone number for the person who's got the lock for this door when there's an incident that occurred in the middle of the night, and just a variety of information that's out there that people sign on to, and organizations sign on to have access to this information. And again, it's protected information because there's sometimes proprietary information within there. The DoD keeps information on on their critical assets through SMADs, and then a couple other things on there we don't need to really dive into at this time. So, next slide, please. All right. Last one here on the education, excuse me, not really the education process for what I believe is important for critical infrastructure protection, but this is more just training. I came into the job, I never heard the term critical infrastructure protection before, yet was expected to kind of start performing. So there are some courses out there that I believe are beneficial. The Joint Interagency Training and Education Center has a course for 10 days out in West Virginia where they really train these SITMA teams, but it allows you to kind of get a basis on maybe not necessarily the technical side of critical infrastructure protection, but you're getting an understanding of what they're looking for in the assessments and those sorts of things. And then FLETC also has a series of courses. This is designed for everyone from the security guard who's at that facility to someone who's doing more of an analytical look at critical infrastructure protection for these organizations. So, next slide. And that kind of concludes, my just quick look at my role in how DoD responds to catastrophic events and how it pertains to SIP. So, I'm happy to field any questions if anybody has any. Yes.
Sorry, Alan Winchester, United States Army Air. I just went to the DSIP course in West Virginia, and just plugging them, it was excellent.
Good.
They did really well. They just stood up another team, a New York team, so they're back to 3.
Okay.
And they're open, of course, for defense industrial base evaluations or assessments, and also any of the DoD. So they did an excellent job.
Good to hear it. I'm glad to hear that. All right, thank you very much.